Just 5 days from now, voters will hit the polls across the Bay Area and California. One big primary race is the contest to replace retiring Congresswoman Anna Eshoo in District 16, which covers parts of San Mateo County and, of course, the South Bay. 11 candidates are vying for that position. And a recent poll sponsored by San Jose Spotlight found former San Jose Mayor Sam Liccardo leading the race with 16%. Santa Clara County Supervisor Joe Simidian with 13%, and former Saratoga Councilmember Rishi Kumar and Assemblymember Evan Lowe tied for third place at 7% apiece. And we are continuing our conversations with the candidates. And joining me live now is former San Jose Mayor Sam Liccardo. Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon.
Great to be with you, Liz. Thanks for having me.
All right, so what are your priorities if we are now going to start calling you Congressman Liccardo?
Well, I'd like to see Congress leaning in on many of the great challenges that our families are struggling with right now, starting with the incredibly high cost of living. I put a plan together to really talk about how we can get congressional action, reaching across the aisle to get things done to reduce very high cost of utilities and childcare and housing. But it's going to require a Congress that's actually paying attention to these many challenges that they often regard as being local issues. So around homelessness, the high cost of housing, crime, we really need a Congress that recognizes these local issues are national challenges. I wrote a plan that's really something of a book on my website about those very specific ideas that I think we can get bipartisan support for.
A lot of talk about the need for new faces versus longtime politicians. You've been in this game a long time. What's your response to that?
Well, I've actually had a few different roles. I was a criminal prosecutor here in Santa Clara County for many years. I also served my community in other ways, and affordable housing boards and others, before I ever got into politics. But fundamentally, this is an amateur hour right now. This is a very serious moment for our country. We need people who are very experienced, who have spent the many, many hours that I've spent at the White House and Capitol Hill, grappling with these major challenges. As a large city mayor, you have to be in Washington and you need to learn to understand it. And certainly that's the experience that I got in my 8 years as mayor. And what I saw was, frankly, a dysfunctional Congress that desperately needs a mayor that understands how to get things done. And mayors throughout the country understand how to reach across the aisle and get things done, because we don't have the luxury of simply pointing the finger at the other party and saying, oh, it's the other party's fault. We have to be responsive and accountable to the challenges that are put in front of us.
One of the major issues facing Congress right now is, of course, the Israel-Hamas war. A lot of activism across the Bay Area, a lot of pressure on politicians like yourself to take a stance. Can you tell us about your position?
Well, I think it's critically important that the negotiations that Tony Blinken is leading right now with Israel and Egypt and Qatar and Hamas, we have to have those succeed. It's critically important that we stop the fighting, get the hostages released, and get aid to 2 million Palestinians that are suffering mightily right now. We have to stop the fighting before we have what I think is likely to happen with the Israeli army going into Rafah. That could result in even thousands more casualties. So it's important that we get the parties to the table right away. You know, two things can be true here. What happened October 7th was horrific as a terrorist act, and Israel has a right to respond with military force when it is attacked in that way. And at the same time, we have a very desperate humanitarian situation right now with hundreds of thousands of Palestinians that are facing really starvation. And we need to do everything we can to get them aid.
Congressional candidate and former San Jose Mayor Sam Liccardo, thanks so much.
It's been a pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
Well, another longtime politician is in the running is Santa Clara County Supervisor Joe Simidian. And there are candidates who are newer to the scene, like Evan Lowe and tech exec Rishi Kumar, all three of whom we've spoken to live here on the news at 3 o'clock. You can watch all of those interviews on our YouTube page at CBS SF. Let's take another live look outside on this first alert weather day. Whiteout conditions up in the Sierra right now. Look at that snow blowing just sideways. Paul's back with the final check of our latest storm next.